Hi, and welcome to You Amaze Me recording. I'm Amanda Baker, and I am an intuitive human being here with you. I am technically a licensed therapist and a yoga instructor, and I offer yoga-based individual therapy and workshops and any ways to connect more to your overall wholeness and humanness. I like to say that we are enhancing our relationship with self and also enhancing your capacity for being human with your emotions, creating safety and support for your nervous system. And the medicine is your presence itself. So, welcome. And I invite you to tune into your body, to tune into the present moment, to ground for a bit, to be present. So, go ahead, take a breath in, take a breath out. Again, breathe in, breathe out. You can even wiggle your fingers and tap along your face. Why not? This, the tapping on your body, tapping on your face, tapping on your head sends the signal to the nervous system to go into that parasympathetic state, but it also creates a little bit of sensation and electricity, right? Of like waking yourself up. We can easily disconnect from our body, easily go into that escape and that numbness. And so I love the tapping. Are we still here, guys? Okay, a new recording track started due to changes in your devices. Well, I'm still here. I don't know if you can see me. I don't know what's going on with the camera, but this is real life, and why pretend otherwise? So I was tapping along the body. We got interrupted, and that's what happens. And how do we kind of go with that? How do we adapt and we adjust? So I don't know if you can see me. The camera might be off, but you don't technically need to see me. So we can keep recording. This can be voice only. We're not necessarily going to do any EFT tapping today. Today is more about my spark and inspiration, and that when I feel like I get the creative kind of hit, I show up here and I share what's going on. And so last night I just joined Threads. So I have an Instagram page. It's my personal page, but really it's me. It's all of me. And so I used to have a poetry page for many years that I grew in sharing my poetry and connecting with that community. I have two books, a self-published book, a book that was published by a nonprofit publishing company here local to Baltimore. You can check them out on my website. And so that page was really dedicated to that. And back maybe several months ago in March, I had this intuitive hit to get rid of that page and bring everything into one place. I really believe that we can be the same person in all facets of life, that who I show up when I'm by myself, when I'm with others, family, friends, my role as a therapist, I want to get out of the role of that. I am here being human as a mirror, offering my experiences and my own insights right now, this stream of consciousness. And that connects and that impacts and that supports people. And if people want to work with me, they feel the resonance and they stay. If I'm not for them, that's okay too. And the ultimate humanness of our emotions, and sometimes our emotions not feeling safe, and learning how to expand that capacity. I want to break through or disrupt. I am disrupting the way that therapy is conducted in the mental health field, and kind of getting out of the system is really one of the most powerful ways to do that disruption. Because if we stay in the system, right, there's that quote, like, you can't heal in places that made you sick. And I think sometimes our systems are making us sick. So anyway, I joined Threads. I know it's been out for a while, but it's been really cool. I get the downsides, the negative sides of social media, while I also get the positives. Everything has its light and dark. And through joining the poetry community, or that page that I created, I met some people that I met them virtually, but I've also gotten to meet them in physical form, we could say, right? We're all connected. We're all energy. So we're not necessarily only connected through the physical. It's great to spend one-on-one time with people, but I've gotten to meet people out in Washington, in Virginia, and form, relationships. And even if I talk to a few people here and there and then never speak to them again, like, okay. So anyway, my point is that I try to keep an open mind when it comes to social media, and it has been a big support for me and many others. And so in joining Threads, I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. I didn't really want another platform. I tried TikTok a couple months back. I did not like it, so I ended up leaving TikTok. And so with Threads, though, it's just been an easy way to like put an idea out there, put a quote, ask a question. And so earlier this week, I had asked, who has been failed by the mental health system? How has the mental health system failed you? Someone wrote back, a better question is, how has it not? Like, who has it actually helped? And I know it's helped people. It's helped me. But really, what I had found that has been so helpful is not necessarily the way that the mental health system is conducted. You have to meet for a certain number of minutes. Many places require a certain number of clients. You have to use certain evidence-based models. And when you come more into who you are and a trust in self, and you get into that flow state is coming from a different energy. It is the energy of, I want to be here. I have things to offer. I have the energy. I have the motivation from an inner space, like this calling in my heart that what I share impacts people is very different than I'm sharing because, and I know this about myself, that when I started in this field, a lot of it was from a wounded place of, well, I need to help people to feel better about myself. I need to be needed. Or when like this kind of savior complex that I could fall into. And, I can have shame for that. And I also don't have shame for that. A lot of things that we do are in attempt to meet unmet needs. And so I get that about myself, and I want to bring that about for others, the accountability of that, and getting more to the truth. And our truth, can change. Our truth can change, but truth, I read a quote too, where it says like, truth is the highest form of intimacy. It is. And so I'm not here to pretend that I'm more of an expert than anybody else. There are things that I do know that other people don't. And I hope to share them. And I know that my clients and the people that I come into contact with teach me just as much as I teach them. And I think that's incredible. So this is weird, like not having the camera, but whatever. I think we're still recording. I hope so. Wouldn't that suck if I'm like 10 minutes in, or I get there and 30 minutes in and this doesn't record? It would. So anyway, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of inner strength. Inner strength is very different than your physical strength, right? But they're symbolic. Like they metaphorically work together. You go to the gym and you're like, let me do one more rep. Let me do 2 more reps. And that enhances your capacity. That enhances your strength to kind of go just beyond your limit and out of your comfort zone. And it can take a lot of courage to show up somewhere and really be honest. And I think sometimes we have places we feel safer to be honest with more than others. And sometimes we can be in that kind of subconscious place of defending ourselves or wearing a mask in some way, like being deceptive with ourselves, of like thinking that we're saying something to appear one way when that's not necessarily the truth, like deep inside. And I think we're all doing the best that we can with where we are. We're all able to show up in the level of consciousness that we are. And that there's acceptance around that, and there's love around that. And sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's that harsh inner critic coming in. Sometimes there's those like excessive intrusive thoughts coming in. And those are signals to when you utilize awareness, those are signals. And that gets put in, from a mental health lens, that gets put into diagnosing. Like, oh, you have all these intrusive thoughts. Maybe it's OCD. Oh, you have a lot of intrusive thoughts. Could be anxiety. You have intrusive thoughts. Could fall under ADHD. And yeah, I'm not saying that there's not value in the diagnostic assessment and falling under a category. I think that helps a lot of people and it can inform a treatment model. But really, when it comes down to it, when I work with people, it's it's looking at the symptom, not the label of the diagnosis. And when we get too caught into the label and diagnosis, sometimes that can integrate as an identity, right? Like, oh, I'm ADHD. If your subconscious comes to believe that about who you are as an identity, you're going to keep living that out. And so having some separation, recognizing there's a part of you that has the traits of ADHD or the traits of anxiety or the traits of bipolar or the traits of, for some, a personality disorder, even. Um, Not seeing that as your, or getting too caught up as that is who you are. I personally don't believe that that is who you are. I believe that became a function of something, usually something that could be passed down, right? There's a biological component that gets passed down where you're like born with the predisposition, maybe for ADHD, and then something activates it in your life. And it's like, well, now here it is. Here's the symptoms. Just like addiction. And addiction shows up in a lot of ways too, that when I think about like drug addiction, if you're predisposed because it's in your genetics, but you never pick up the alcohol, you never try the cocaine or the heroin, then you won't be an addict. I mean, we can't say that you might not become a drug addict if you never try it, right? It doesn't activate that predisposition, doesn't activate the addiction gene, maybe. Uh, but it might show up in other ways that you have some addictive components within yourself. Myself, like I can say that there's an addictive component to working, to achieving, to achieving. I was going to say performing. I use that word sometimes too, of like I need to be this way to receive validation, to receive or to get approval or to move up to the next level because that feels good, right? That instant kind of gratification, and it perpetuates the cycle. And so there's the predisposition, there's genetics, and then there's experiences and events and things that happen that create these symptoms that might fall under a diagnosis. But I encourage or I invite you to consider that that diagnosis isn't you, that there are things to continue to discover within yourself that are separate from your diagnosis. And also the symptoms, the characteristics have value. They absolutely have value. I think about the achiever in me and that momentum. Can I love it? Can I see it as my ability to be determined and be driven, but to have that come from an energy of passion and of like service that is not to meet those core wounds. I want to not honor, I want to affirm that those needs are met. And maybe old me, part of me, doesn't believe that they've been met. That I am lovable, worthy, approved of, validated. That's been met. That's been met. And because that's been met, I don't need to achieve for those to be met. I don't need to have this savior complex or healer archetype for that need to be met. That I offer because it's from something that is so big in my heart. And I'm thankful that I have these traits that support that. Like my thoughts are going. Like we could say, oh my gosh, these thoughts are so overwhelming. These thoughts are intrusive. These thoughts are um, like getting in the way. But they're signals, they're information. They're saying, hey, Amanda, get this out there. Take what's inside and put it and channel it into something because I love the struggle. I do. Like a lot of people show up with me and they're like, I'm so sick of struggling. I'm so sick of struggling. Perhaps, what if you actually like the struggle? And if you come to like it and get to know it, then you become empowered over it. You take that struggle and you lead it instead of the struggle leading you. When we are bothered by those things, when we're like, the struggle sucks, the struggle's a problem, I'm frustrated that I continually create more struggle in my life, it's going to lead you. When you recognize I'm competitive, is that a bad trait? It can be if it's leading me. If I'm leading it, if I take that competitive nature and look at, well, is the competitiveness because I need to win and is that from ego? Or is the competitiveness again because it's propelling me not to be better than someone else, but to be better within myself, to take that competitiveness and be like, I believe in this mission. I believe in a new way to treat uh treat mental health, our wholeness, all of you, your whole humanness within some of the symptoms that are signals that deserve, or maybe not deserve, are worthy. Sometimes those words can be tricky. That want to be seen, want attention, want recognition, want to feel understood. So much rambles. I joined Threads, and earlier in the week I had asked, how has the mental health system failed you? And I got a response from someone that said a better question is like, how has it not failed people? Well, we need to hear from the people that it's actually helped. And I know it's helpful. It has helped me. Therapy has helped me. Not necessarily, though, the way that the system is constructed. Having to meet with someone for a certain number of minutes, having to have a certain number on your caseload, what will insurance reimburse, having to utilize certain evidence-based models. Therapy has been most effective when I've taken down the masks, when I've taken down some of the rules, and I've been my authentic self. I have been vulnerable. I have shared about me. I've created that therapeutic relationship, and also I've taken the framework that you are not your diagnosis and your symptoms are signals and there's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You have learned how to survive, and let's get to remember who you were before all of that showed up. And so I loved that. And then last night I asked the question, or I prompted people and I said, want to play a game? Tell me your diagnosis without telling me your diagnosis. And the responses have been so incredible. And I appreciate everybody who shared on there and offered their creativity in saying kind of about themselves or about their diagnosis without actually saying what it is. And that sparked my inspiration of like, let me pop on here and read about it and share what people have said. And let's see if we can, if you want to guess, if you want to play along and try to guess what each person is indicating about themselves when it comes to diagnostics, or if you just want to take it in and like have fun with it. We need humor sometimes. This is not to hurt anybody in any sort of way. I'm going to read them and see what comes up and go from there. So cool. Alrighty. Want to play a game? Tell me your diagnosis without telling me your diagnosis. What do we got? So it's really cool. This has only been up for about 13 hours and people are still commenting. So maybe I'll do a part 2, but here we go. All right. This person says, I have several diagnoses. 1, sensory informations are often painful for me. And sometimes I suddenly lose my capacity to speak. Younger, I believe that I do it at 100%, mean do it until you have zero energy. Goodness. Sensory information, painful. Sometimes I suddenly lose my capacity. When I was younger, I believed that I had to do it all at 100%. So this is like that all or nothing kind of thinking, that black and white thinking, giving your all and then completely being depleted. Sensory information being painful, right? So take that as you will. In the comments, if you want to share and guess what you think some of these are, there's going to be many people that overlap. There's many things that do overlap. Sensory can sensory overstimulation can be an indicator of ADHD, can be an indicator of autism, can be an indicator of, anxiety, bipolar. There's a lot there. And so I think it's taking the details of what's shared and listening to that, or being more curious as to what is it about sensory information that uh, is leading one to feel overstimulated. 2, following a recipe for me, like finding my way in a labyrinth, and after a 3-hour meeting, I will probably cry because there's too much information and too much time without moving. Um, yeah, following a recipe is very difficult. Again, it's that attention. So we go into, again, is this ADHD? Could it just be stress, nervous system dysregulation, trauma? Can lead to that. And that's why I'm not here to name exactly what it is. It's to show how easily these can fall under different things, and taking the symptoms and checking back in with self. 3-hour meeting, feel like crying, right? The level of overload and overwhelm, and how our emotions can express ourselves. Be with those tears. We can think that's weakness. Those tears are like, hey, pay attention to me. Be here with me. 3, at any moment in the day, I can lose my control of my body and have absences or spasms. Yeah. The mind-body connection, the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body are so related. And those spasms too, it can be indicative of an area to get curious about and pay attention to. That's like gentle touch, like placing your hand on that area and inviting in a conversation. Talk to yourself, just like I do here. There's an audience maybe listening, but this is more about you speaking to you and speaking about what are, or listening to what are those spasms telling me. And it's a different voice when you speak out loud. Our thoughts are not our higher voice. And so when we speak out loud, like, I'm not really thinking right now, I'm allowing this to flow through. And if there's wisdom that comes, amazing. If there's not, then okay. And we accept that. I'm not looking for an answer. I'm open to various perspectives and what shows up. So we can also think about these diagnoses sometimes as being autoimmune related with the body. Autoimmune, your immune system and your nervous system are so connected. Are your emotional body and your physical body so connected? So when there is an activation of your nervous system and you go into fight, flight, or freeze or fawn, that is so related and connected to your immune system that your body can think that there's actual virus or disease. And so then your immune system tries to fight the bacteria, the infection, the virus. And then it believes that there's something physical in there, and there might not be. It might just be emotion, holding on to emotions, grief, anger, sadness, embarrassment, shame. Those emotions can be so uncomfortable and painful in the body that we develop these protective layers, like distracted thoughts, intrusive thoughts. A lot of thinking is safer to be in your head than it is to be in your body. And so it's like, well, here are all these thoughts. Pay attention to the thoughts so you don't have to be with the feeling. And then being with the feeling that the body has learned this aversion to can then create that autoimmune response, because the immune system thinks that it's fighting a virus when really it's fighting your emotions. And our emotions are not meant to be cured, to be treated as something that needs to die. The emotions are energy in motion, and they flow and they transmute, they alchemize, taking your grief into love. But both of those might be scary. You might be scared of love and you might be scared of grief. And so then it's safer to be in your anxiety. It's wild how fascinating this stuff is, and opening up the conversation of What might it be like to drop into and create safety within myself through your breath, through your senses, through looking at the sunlight? And these are little things, but when you cumulatively add to them, it might adjust something in your system, but that needs to integrate. And that's why the practice of being with your body, with the emotion in a safe way, with a trusting person, in a safe place, in an environment. And you start small. If it's difficult to be with your body, focus on what you see, what you touch, a song, art. So thank you for the person who popped that one in there. We're already at 25 minutes and I could go on and on and on with all of these. All right, what's next? This person said, I answered this in my head 13 hours ago, and now I'm wondering if I said it wrong, even though I'm the only one who heard it. Oh, some of these I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to comment because then I'll be here for hours. And I invite you to comment on what stands out to you, or if you relate, or if you have something to say about it. Yeah, like that is that mental health? Is that, or is that just our humanness? We're all neurotic in some way. We are. Some of us hide it. Some of us cover it up really well. Some of us speak it openly, but does that mean that it needs a label? Just again, I throw these things out there to disrupt the system. And if we want to have hopefully a friendly disagreement and friendly conversation, I'm all for it. Alrighty. I spent my entire life believing I'm the butt of a joke. I don't know if being told about me, but at least I have a very developed fictional world to write about. Okay. Spent my entire life believing I'm the butt of a joke. And is this the truth about me? Regardless, developing a fictional world to write about. Yeah. Going into your imagination is a form, we could say, of dissociation. And there can be healthy dissociation and unhealthy, right? Completely disconnected and completely zoned out, not feeling real, depersonalization, derealization, while also dissociating. If we did not dissociate, we would take in everything all at once. We would not function. So I appreciate when we might daydream, we might go into creating a fictional fantasy world, again, for your protection. The fantasy world can feel safer than our reality that is chaotic and fear-based versus trusting, safe, and love-based. And sometimes the safety is scary because you've been conditioned to be in the unsafe. And so if we can come to recognize and claim that about yourself, sometimes I like feeling unsafe, because what does that do? That creates thrill, that sparks creativity, that can jolt you. Can you look at it in a new way? Because you're not, in many situations, what you're perceiving as a threat is not going to kill you. It's, someone on here said something, that abandonment can feel like death, and it can. Just like a panic attack is practically a heart attack, but it's not. It's replicating that. Panic attack doesn't kill you because it's not actually a heart attack, but it feels like it. It does. And that's very real. But when you can come to understand that your body is just letting out what it needs to let out, instead of constantly going into, I need to relieve. My migraines used to terrify me, absolutely terrify me. The worst pain, vomiting, but that was my own panic because I hated them. I had to go to the hospital, be injected with Dilaudid. Now when I get one, I'm like, this is just my body needing to get this out. Maybe it's telling me that I'm overwhelmed and stressed and need to rest. Maybe it's just telling me, hey, you have a lot going on and you're moving through it. And not to endure, but to strengthen myself. Like, wow, this migraine is here and I'm take a few hours off work. Now, instead of it being an all day thing, it's a couple hours. I accept. Turn the lights out, take some meds, hot or cold on my forehead. I don't need it to go away right away. It will go away on its own. That's surrender. But we cannot just surrender and give up of like, I surrender and the world and the divine is going to just take care of me. It's surrender and courage with strength. The strength of, I have this migraine and I am going to take care of myself. And I'm surrendering that it will go away on its own. That's an inner trust, an inner strength, connecting with your inner courage. Because courage cannot exist without fear. And I might have some fear that the migraine is like disrupting my day, and some trust and courage that I have the resources in me and trust in my body to move through it. The same way that you can notice, like, I'm having a depressive episode. I'm going to feel depressed and it might last for a while, but am I going to fight it? Or am I going to have my inner strength and courage that it is an emotion that is a part of my human experience, and a surrender that it will move through me and I will come out of it? Your job is the inner strength and courage of creating the safety within yourself and the surrender to the unknown, to not knowing the outcome. Okay. Some of you might be like, I just wanted to hear what people said, and here she goes on her rambles. Okay. Next one. Someone said bendy body inside out. Bendy body inside out. Man, that makes me think of like hypermobility, low muscle tone. Again, that could be autoimmune. That could be, it's like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I'm not saying that correctly. POTS, autoimmune. But again, sensory, a lot of times that can be POTS and ADHD trauma, right? It can also be post-traumatic stress, can be related to that. But I'm not here to necessarily guess, just sharing what comes in my mind. Alrighty. I tidied up and now I don't know where anything is. If you ask me for a paper clip, I know to look in that one pile of stuff left on the floor under the blue shirt and inside the little box, and there are 3 paper clips and a hairband. I relate to that so freaking much. Yes. Yes. My mom would always want me to clean up. And I'd be like, I know where everything is. It's a mess on my floor, but I know where everything is. And as soon as I clean it up, then I don't know where it is. I get you. I get you. Everything hurts and it's hard to move. If I don't move, I'm fine. But even one small motion and pain and stiffness rears its head. Yeah. The physical again. This physical with the emotional and the mental. Everything hurts at least a little all the time. Sometimes a random uninjured body part hurts a lot, and every disorder generally accepted as real has been ruled out. And I know, like, people can spend so much time and money on assessments and evaluations to attempt to get to the root cause or what it is. My belief, you got to follow the chain. You got to follow the thread. It's about survival and fear that the certain things, unmet needs, will kill you. And that's why these things develop. They want to keep you safe. They don't want you to have to go into, it's like go into the cave. There's a quote there. The treasure you seek is in that cave that you fear. And often for many, it's a fear of not being loved, of not being worthy, of not being enough, that you're alone. And you be with that fear, in that harshness, that harsh inner critic that so badly wants you to be enough, wants attention, wants recognition. Claim those unmet needs as sacred and show up with yourself for yourself, and know that others too. Like when you are able to hold the space in yourself of, part of me believes I'm unworthy and part of me knows I'm worthy. It's powerful. And that supports the physical. I've had this back pain this week and I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's there. It's there. Sometimes it hurts more than others. Okay, next one. Sadness feels like death and happiness feels like euphoric. And then there's a split, and I think everyone hates me. Yeah. Mm. The intensity sometimes of our emotions and how polarized it can be. Sadness feels like death. Happiness is euphoric. Chasing the euphoria, falling into the sadness. Yeah. I mean, whether we want to say that's bipolar, whether we can say again, it's a trauma. Um, and I'm not diagnosing when I say these because I could also be inaccurate, and each person's evaluation can be very subjective. And so the way that our beliefs, right? Like I said, does that belief that comes up, everyone hates me. What is the feeling of that? The feeling is probably the disappointment, the grief, the shame, the fear. And knowing that when that shows up, it's not going to kill you. Safety around the shame, safety around the disappointment, safety with the fear, the hurt, the courage. Then it's courageous to name it, to share it, to feel it. Because when you go through that feeling presently, when you're present with it, not saying I need to be happy because happy is going to make this go away, or I need a treatment protocol, I need a strategy. Your inner resources are the strategy. Sometimes your escape is the strategy. Sometimes you'll still do that, and sometimes you'll have the courage. I almost died before I figured out my diagnosis because my body pays attention to everything on the outside, but nothing on the inside. And if I pay attention to your needs first, then I'm a good person. Right? Why do we learn that? The conditioning. Conditioning is trauma. Conditioning can be trauma. People pleasing, codependency, putting someone else before yourself. The body's going to know that when you do that, you are leaving yourself. You are running from yourself. You're detaching from yourself. And it is so uncomfortable then for those that have that conditioning. Many do. I relate that those that have that conditioning, it feels scarier to not attend to that person, to not attempt to appease that person, please that person, rescue that person. Because you believe, well, then I'm good. And we all want to believe we're good. You are good. You're good whether you do that or not. But then we can be judged and criticized or manipulated because somebody else has a challenge being in their own emotion. So they're like, come on, rescue me. Come on, assure me. What else? I have barbed wire in my belly. Someone says I eat and then throw up. Okay. Yeah. Um, the ways that these symptoms are about control because of fear and coping. The way that sometimes food is the coping mechanism, because maybe you desire something else. Maybe you desire connection and love, desire the thrill. And maybe that's not available to you. Food becomes the closest thing. And then there's shame, then there's judgment, then there's guilt, then there's critique. Because if the desire is for like connection, but maybe that doesn't feel like it's there, maybe you're also your own block in that connection. And the food is comforting because it provides, right, the pleasure. But then that wasn't exactly what you wanted. The body can reject that. The body can be like, I didn't want food. I'm not hungry right now. I wanted this intimacy. I wanted this passion with something. And food was the easiest, closest thing. agree. We could say drugs was the easiest and closest thing. Gambling was the easiest and closest thing. Excessive shopping was the easiest and closest thing. Overworking was the easiest and closest thing. But if the body's like, that's not actually what I want, it will show you through its own rejection, maybe through the purging, through the vomiting, through the panic attack. It's all information. And it's not to be harder on yourself of like, oh, well, then I purged and now that's bad and wrong. No, it's showing you to really go back into your desire and to hold it, to delay the gratification. That desire for connection, for love, for your worthiness is something to hold, even if you don't have it in the physical form in the external reality. It's not there in the external reality just yet. Can you hold it? Can you delay your need to rescue yourself of like, let me eat all this food? It takes so much practice, and it does involve support, whether it's professional support, whether it's spiritual, whether it's a combination of both. That mechanism of whether it's an eating disorder or, like I said, a gambling addiction, a shopping thing, an overworking thing, you may need to rely on those. They're keeping you alive. They are. While when you see them as that, when you recognize the ways that they have your parts and your traits and symptoms, believe that they're keeping you alive, then you can build trust that they don't need to keep you alive because you are alive, but they're just not updated per se. And even if I speak all this on the cognitive level, it is a body integration. It is a body integration. That's why we breathe at the beginning. That's why we do the tapping. That's why maybe you do the meditations. That's why maybe you do the yoga. That's why you walk outside. That's why you sit with yourself and you breathe. And that's why it's so powerful to connect with others. What else? Zone. Okay, this one's funny because this one says I have 3 for you. 3, and then they list. Zone out, gets overstimulated, hates being touched, asks 362 questions to understand the why, needs loads of structure and then gets bored, sensitive to light and smells, gets mislabeled as rude, loses track of time, overly feminine, migraines, lower back pain, iron deficiency. Oh, right. I talked a lot about that. And then someone responded, autism? Wait, you said 3. Are you pregnant? Maybe ADHD. I love these. Autism, ADHD. Oh, here we go. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That's what I was speaking of earlier, which is highly related to POTS. Oh my goodness, these are great. I'm shrinking, was told to stop getting chiropractic massages. I'm in my 50s. I hear things, I think things, but they aren't actually there. Not to you anyway. The more that you can invite in those things from a place of curiosity. And I go back to talking to yourself to get the information. Talking to a practitioner, talking to a therapist helps, but I really, really, really encourage showing up in front of a mirror or in front of a camera and talking to yourself. It is awkward, and it is courageous, and it is vulnerable, and it can unlock. All of a sudden, the body can open itself up. And for many, that can be very scary. And so little by little. And again, disclaimer, I am in no way recommending anything in a medical way. I encourage you to work with your practitioner, work with your therapist, work with your medical provider, psychiatrist. I am not discounting medication. Opening up your perspectives, though. Interrupts you before you finish, takes a mental voyage during your response. Sorry, what? Starts responding while interrupting you. Common response, people are saying ADHD with that. autistic ADHD, neurodivergence. Like, let's embrace neurodivergence. I think we have more neurodivergence now than we have neurotypical. Uh, let's all diverge. Let's all diverge. When it's bad, I can sleep 15 plus hours in a day with being awake only a few hours. It sounds like a condition with a similar name, which has an opposite name. Sometimes it's so bad I can't really wake up because my whole body's muscles, they don't work. What is that? MS, right? My spine is probably 80 years old, but I'll be 40 in September. Oh my goodness. I feel for that. Lupus, right? Like these different autoimmune. I mean, I had the antibodies for hypothyroidism. And so again, these are real conditions. It's a matter of what is the best support for them to manage them and to reduce and soften them. And I know people who have been diagnosed with autoimmune and then they go into remission from it. A lot of times from the spiritual, somatic, holistic work. Too strong emotions than no emotions at all. And we could look at that as nervous system dysregulation sometimes too. Hyperarousal, like intense feeling, and then detachment because the intensity of the emotions, when the emotions are the lead and they absorb or you're absorbed by them, that's going to take a lot of energy out of your body until you then need to restore. And that sometimes that restoration comes from detachment, shutdown, and exhaustion. But I'm really going to say that the exhaustion is a signal that maybe you're not living in your authentic self from a place of fear. That being authentic means I won't be chosen. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I'm not a good enough citizen. All of those things. When you go into those and feel them, you move through them. They alchemize. Your shadows become integrated into you through the light. You are the light. When I get stressed out, I start making organizational spreadsheets for my role play on Discord. I'm instead doing basic self-care. I do this for fun. Bonus points. If I eat too much cake in one sitting, I go straight to the hospital without collecting go. And it says these are reductive, but that's the goal. Yeah. Sometimes our stress can lead us to be right productive in a way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying any of this is good or bad. It's more about our humanness. Military brain damage, muscles hurting. I don't know why. Don't care enough to investigate the disease. Yeah. Everything wrong with me is blamed on my diagnosis, no matter what. Let's see. So this post has over 100 comments. Some of them are pictures. Oh, wow. Yeah. Sad. Oh, I already read that one. Okay. I'm lost in thought more than I pay attention. I've looked for my car keys in the freezer. Time is wibbly wobbly. Noises hurt my ears. I need constant earbuds. Weird food textures make me run for the hills. Ask about a specific interest. I can talk for days. Ask me an uncomfortable question and no words will pass my lips. It's rainy. I'm sad. It's sunshine and rainbows. I'm sad. What do you say? Don't worry. Worrying is a superpower. That cycle. I got to do weird stuff to make the thoughts go away. And we think about maybe some OCD with that, perhaps. My brain has two operators. One likes order and routine. The other is chaos and goblins. They're constantly fighting over who controls. I'm chronically exhausted. Yeah, when we have inner conflict inside, you will be exhausted. It's recognizing the inner conflict and holding them as both can exist. We don't need a winner. Putting that competitiveness into something else instead of your insides competing, can you take that outside? You say, how can I channel this competitiveness in a way that supports me and the world? If you sent me a bird sound, I'll tell you what species it is. Right? Some of these things are really cool. Let's see. I know way more about air crashes than most people. I almost died before I figured out my diagnosis because my body pays attention to everything on the outside, but nothing on the inside. Oh, I read that one. See, my humanness here. Yesterday, I had to come home on the way to work 7 times because I'd forgotten items I needed. Not even a weighted blanket could get me to calm down when I got home. We have a padded bed, like the walls, the bed is padded. Wow, and nowhere feels safe. Nowhere feels safe. I put it down somewhere now. I can't find it. Roller coaster. Spicy, intrusive thoughts for hours every day. I can control squirrels telepathically, but I'm really bad at cooking. So yeah, how was that to hear? These are incredible. And I just find it amazing, people's openness and willingness to share and to be creative. So, okay. Anyway, take all that in. I appreciate you listening to my rambles, listening to what people shared on threads. Feel free to find me. I'm at Amanda on the Flip. Feel free to check out my website, Amanda Baker Writes. I have a community there, all supporting each other in our wholeness and in our authenticity, unlocking your own true gifts through the acceptance of all of you, knowing that your diagnosis is not who you are, though it offers so many skills, talents, magic, and abilities. And that's all a part of my Alchemize course and community. So you can check that out. And until I see you next time, please feel free to comment, like, follow, subscribe, all the things. And you amaze me. I love you.